Ahora está grabando también.
Ah. eh, está grabando. Ya. Buenos días. Ahí, there are, I'm going to open up the chats. Yeah. There's Aline. Aline Israel, she's talking by the chat. She's our ayudante.
Sí.
She helped us in the course. She's an assistant professor. Well, Felipe, you already know him, and we are receiving now the students from the course. Maybe I'm gonna give like a few minutes for them to connect. And meanwhile, I want to welcome you officially, Malex and J.Paul. We are very excited to have the opportunity to talk to you today and to know more about your work and the work you've done regarding mental health or healthcare with foundation in speculative design. The students are not allowed by the webinar to speak, so I'm going to to translate what they write maybe, and what we spoke. We showed them your work and we told them we were going to have this session, and they were like very excited and honored to have you here. I want to thank you on behalf of the course, first of all, and Universidad Diego Portales for joining us. So now I'm going to speak in Spanish to introduce you guys. Bueno, buenos días. Ya estamos partiendo nuestro seminario. Veo que se están conectando nuestros estudiantes del taller. Les voy a presentar a nuestros panelistas. Hoy vamos a conversar sobre diseño especulativo y salud mental. Primero, porque para nosotros como taller es importante, ¿no es cierto?, nos mueve y nos preocupa el tema, y segundo, porque creemos que hay que plantear estas nuevas formas de abordarlo, sobre todo en el contexto que estamos viviendo actualmente. Malex es diseñadora, estratega y docente en diseño británica venezolana. Vive allá hace 20 años en Londres. Londres, ¿no es cierto, Malex? Sí.
Londres.
Su práctica se centra en la intersección de la semiótica, el análisis cultural, el diseño y los futuros especulativos. Es asociada de la School of Critical Design y trabaja en Mundano Estudio como directora de proyectos. De todas maneras, Malex, le vamos a dejar ahí también el paso después para que ellos nos cuenten de sus trabajos. J.Paul es diseñador e investigador con background en diseño de servicios, diseño especulativo, investigación en diseño y estrategia. Trabajó en el Centro de Innovación de la Clínica Mayo en el área de diseño de servicios e investigación con foco en salud y experiencia, entre muchos otros proyectos y cosas en las que ha estado involucrado, y hoy está explorando las implicancias sociales, culturales, económicas y éticas de las tecnologías emergentes, diseñando futuros especulativos que nos permitan comprometernos en el fondo con nuevas maneras de entender el estado actual. Es también consultor de servicios y diseños en Neeley Worldwide, es cofundador de la School of Critical Design, es fundador de Masamichi Sousou, organización que vela por la optimización de la felicidad, cofundador de Yosarian, una inteligencia artificial para la creatividad, y es docente en la Royal College of Art en Londres, además de otras universidades en las que también da charlas y clases. Y antes de darles la pasada, solo para contextualizar, como muy breve, nosotros en el taller, y que es un poco de lo que, o como en base a qué invitamos a Malex y a J.Paul a conversar hoy, nos hicimos la pregunta, ¿qué pasaría si proyectamos y resignificamos escenarios o espacios en beneficio de la salud mental? I was telling the audience that we made the question, what if we reframe or think new scenarios to benefit mental health? That's the question that motivate us to for our exam in or final project in the course. So now with my brief introduction of you both, I am going to give you the space for you to talk us. I'm going to there. It's all yours.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for the introduction and for having us. We're really excited. So what we wanted to do, I think I just want to confirm, Antonia, that you've shared the presentation we gave for the Chilean Design Month. Is that right? Have the students seen that?
Yeah, we shared it, but I think that maybe it was a little too fast and in English, so
Okay.
maybe they failed to. But yes, it's. We told them anyway that you were that you spoke in that context, and we also made a when we start the project, we made a brief presentation regarding speculative design. So they
Perfect.
are.
They're familiar. Okay, great. Because
Yeah.
What I'm realizing, actually, I'm my slides. I'm on my phone. My computer is kind of exploded right now, so I'm trying to get on to share some slides. But maybe I will just talk for a moment on a
Sure.
very brief introduction to speculative design, and then I can talk through one of the projects that we did in healthcare. But I think most helpful I know Malex is going to share a project she worked on, and then we'll be. Well, I'm very excited for question and answer. I think discussion is the most valuable part of this process. So for speculative design, again, I believe it's the design of future products and services. And the goal is not to design that we're not interested in that thing we created. We're most interested in people's reactions to that thing or the impact that thing has in the world. So we use design to build future products and services to help us understand implications, reactions, impact. So the design of the product is a tool for understanding. And so we've used this in a lot of different places with many different companies and organizations to help them prepare and understand for the future. And I think I think it's becoming more normalized or a regular part of design practice. So a lot of our work at the School of Critical Design is to encourage many different practitioners, designers, researchers, strategists, business people, psychologists, semioticians, many disciplines to use speculative design as a way to improve the way they make decisions in the business. So if all of those people in the business can create a future and then have a discussion together about that future, that enhances the way we understand what's important to us, where we want the business or the organization or the country to go. And it can also help us determine what we want to avoid or what we want to stay away from. So I think we've shared, we can share also our slides on our introduction slides that we often share. But I wanted to tell you about a project that I've done in mental health with Telefonica. Do you have Telefonica in Chile? Is
we
Telefonica
do.
active there? Okay, yeah. So Telefonica, we were working with their group in Barcelona. And they had realized that all of the value, they run all of the pipes. All of the information, all of the data travels through Telefonica pipes and phone lines. But all of the value is created by Google or Facebook or all of the companies delivering information through the pipes. And so they realized we need to, we're the infrastructure, but we need to think about the services and the value we can create on top of the infrastructure. So they created several moonshots. We'll invest 100 million euros to understand, I think, health and clean energy, and they had several others that they were working with. So we were working with the health moonshot, and they had a very large amount of funding to understand what is the future of health. So we did a speculative design project to understand that. And we looked at the technology. What is the future of technology? So we would take things like mobile phones, and mobile phones are very powerful. They're very amazing. We like the technology, but also they're very dangerous. They can be addictive. Things like social media can be very, things like bullying and body dysmorphia, not understanding our what is real and what is fake when it comes to our physical figure or eating. So we take a technology like the mobile phone, and then we would take it into the future. Okay, well, in the future, everyone will have this, and a generation will grow up with these, and potentially these problems of addiction and mental health around social media will even be worse. So then we imagine, okay, well, what will the future products and services be in this world? So I'll give you one example then. And we did this for every type of mental health problem. We maybe had 15 or 20 different mental health problems, about 10 different technologies. And then we designed future persona, people that were dealing with a particular mental health problem and a particular technology. So virtual reality and, and depression, or climate change, anxiety, and mobile phones. So we looked at all of these things together. But I'll give you one example. We created one future idea that was called Future Friends. And the idea was to have a perfect friend, and it was an artificial intelligence that was designed to interact with you on social media, and only to be positive. So, oh, you look wonderful today. Congratulations, on your test last week. Did you remember to call your mother for her birthday? Oh, it looks like it's very late. Why don't you go to bed? So what if you had a friend that everything they did was optimized for your health and well-being, and they followed you around on social media, always were there to be positive. If someone said something negative, the friend would defend you. So we then designed these future scenarios. We actually built, some mock-ups of the app, and we even advertised for the app on Facebook, and we ran ads for the perfect friend, the AI perfect friend companion, and got feedback from people on what did they like, what didn't they like. So this lasted for this project lasted for about a year, actually, going through many different scenarios. And now the company has just left the incubator and launched. And so they have a mental health company now, Telefonica does, that is completely focused on mostly on workplace mental health now. So helping companies improve the mental health of their employees, but also looking at the mental health of their customers or their consumers. So this was an interesting example, and some of the future examples that we built, actually, we realized they're very near term. And so some of the future concepts we had actually have become part of the current business in Telefonica. Let's see. So all just to say that this is becoming more and more a very common practice, and we're using these future explorations to actually impact current business decision making today. So that's the project I wanted to share. It's just a starting place. And Malex, maybe I'll turn it over to you to share, and I'm sure with some beautiful slides as well. So, but hopefully that you could understand that that project.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, thank you, gracias por invitarme a estar aquí, a todos por acercarse. Voy a presentar en inglés, pero por favor, si tienen alguna pregunta, escríbanme aquí que yo contesto. Voy a compartir mi pantalla. Pueden confirmar que ven en la pantalla, ven mis notas, importantísimo.
Vemos tus notas.
Sí, oh my god. Ok, no, eso no. No. Espérate. Un momentico. Bueno. Ven mi... Ay, no puedo. Vaya, no deberían ver mis notas. Bueno,
Si le pone, porque presenter view es el tuyo. Ahí se ve, ahí está perfecto. Ah, lo que había hecho recién funcionó.
Sí, ven mi desktop ahí.
No, ahora vemos tu PowerPoint.
Ok, bueno, voy a presentar así, ok. Igual creo que ven todo lo que necesitamos. Bueno, nosotros somos Mundano, somos una agencia abierta radicada en Colombia y en el Reino Unido, y trabajamos en la intersección de design semiotics, análisis cultural y diseño especulativo y crítico. Usualmente ayudamos a nuestros clientes a crear y a evolucionar marcas y productos y servicios. Y nosotros decimos que hacemos esto en contexto, es decir, mirando específicamente el contexto, y también los ayudamos a imaginar sus futuros. Entonces, aquí voy a comenzar en inglés, pero como dije, cualquier cosa me preguntan, ¿sí? I'll start with an important observation to set the context. Historically, Latin America is not at odds with unthinkable events. Our reality is often stranger than fiction. What for some is a far future dystopia, for others is just the everyday. We experience uncertainty and change on a daily basis. And this is, of course, very hard, but in turn, our notions of the real and the possible shapes everything, from our politics to our sense of hope. Esto lo dice Arturo Escobar, y creo que creo que es algo importante para nosotros, porque si bien el contexto es muy difícil en Latinoamérica, también ese sentido de posibilidad se traduce en todo lo que hacemos. Como dice aquí, desde la manera en cómo hacemos política hasta nuestro sentido de la esperanza.
No soy yo, ¿verdad?
Sí, no, la Malex se quedó.
Malex, te perdimos.
Hola, ¿me escuchan?
Ahí se quedó justo
Ahí sí.
5 minutos, sí.
Okay. Bueno, mi conexión también a veces va y viene, así que paciencia. Okay. In Latin America, there is space to explore endemic visions of diverse, inclusive, and preferable futures, to imagine ways in which we move towards development, in which we define progress in our own terms, and importantly, to redefine possible, the word possible, Because in Latin America, y otra vez, voy a citar a Arturo Escobar, another possible is possible. Otro posible es posible. I ask myself very often, and I know I'm not the only one, if critical and speculative design can really be applied, if it belongs only to the academia or art spaces, because as soon as it touches the constraints of policies and budgets, it loses its edges, becomes complacent and affirmative. But today, I'll share with you a project we had the opportunity to develop in Colombia, where we had definitely the opportunity to apply speculative and critical design thinking to interrogate reality and to imagine other possibles, otros posibles. So we were asked to investigate the health system in Colombia and find gaps and opportunities for an investment group. And this is what we learned, that in Colombia, Colombia's record as the higher investment per person in healthcare in Latin America, and yet it ranks as a #1 in corruption in the same sector in the region. El ejemplo aquí es una youtuber muy importante en Colombia que hace crítica política, cultural, etcétera, en donde explica con muchísimo detalle en qué consiste esto de que el sistema de salud de Colombia es el más corrupto de Latinoamérica. Porque hay mucha plata, pero también hay muchas manos, hay muchísima burocracia, hay una lista interminable de contratos, de pequeña gente haciendo contratos y lamentablemente muchísima corrupción. Entonces, every Colombian has theoretically universal access to health. That means the right to receive healthcare when they need it. But in the practice, this access is far more complicated, with never-ending waiting lists and lengthy diagnostic processes. To reduce costs, the primary care providers avoid prescribing costly medicines or delay diagnostic exams, including simple blood tests that cost really very little. This is nothing new. We have seen this very often in other contexts, but what's the difference? That the budget is not controlled by the providers, but by an intermediary figure called the EPS, and that these figures distribute the money amongst the health providers. This is well documented that the worst cases of corruption in Colombia happens in the healthcare sector. So for this reason, some people decide to join prepaid schemes of healthcare schemes, even if that means spending a significant part of their earnings. This is a no-brainer decision. You must be protected from the system rather than be protected by the system. Esto es lo que en diseño especulativo se llama un wicked problem, ¿no? Un problema cultural, económico, social, etcétera, que parece no tener solución. So research is at the core of Mundano. We can't design without really understanding the context where design is going to live in. We use a mix of semiotics and culture.
Hay que esperar a que vuelva el internet, pero ya sabemos, contexto pandemia y lejanías, que va a generar esto.
Sí, por mientras recuerden a los que están conectados que pueden hacer preguntas en el chat. Así que vamos complementando lo que va diciendo Malex y va generando una conversación más dinámica también.
O podemos también guardar esas preguntas para cuando termine de presentar, pero sí como dejar abierta esa posibilidad de, we lost Malex at all.
Hopefully she'll be back. Sorry, this is not a good showing for UK technology, internet connections.
Yeah.
This is our Brexit problems.
Oh yeah. We are with, well, here is common too. We have only one, no, not only one, but there are few companies of internet in Santiago, at least. In Chile, actually, out of Santiago,
Okay.
there are not too many, and it always crashes. Malex, welcome back. Estás sin audio.
Y I'm going to share my screen.
Ajá.
Ok, gracias por la paciencia. Eso es algo también de lo que creemos del futuro, ¿no? Que creemos que el futuro siempre viene sin errores. No, incluso la tecnología más avanzada tiene errores en el everyday, en el día a día. Ok, entonces, estábamos hablando de el sistema de clase de Colombia, ¿no? That reflects inequality in the form of explicit stratification, estratos, le dicen en Colombia, ¿no? This stratus goes from 1 to 6, and it's a part of the identity of the inhabitants, right? Which will describe themselves using the number corresponding the strata they belong to. In some ways, it works in similar ways to a caste system, ¿no? Es como un sistema de casta en donde tú perteneces a un número de este sistema de estratos. So the current health system also reflects the existing inequality. The lower strata can only access the public and chronically ill healthcare service. Often, people visit popular healers called yerbateros or curanderos. And these popular healers not only are affordable for the more disadvantaged, but also are happy to consult and heal more sympathetically and compassionately. They exist in the collective imagination and are available in almost every corner, in popular markets, in street shacks, you know, like pretty much everywhere. In some underfunded, due to corruption, regions, traditional healers completely substitutes the healthcare service. Y aquí vemos un aviso, un artículo reciente del periódico donde dice que los yerbateros casi que suplieron el sistema de salud en Chocó, que es una zona en la costa de Colombia bastante atacada por la pobreza. Okay. So, when a person that belongs to this stratum fails ill and depends exclusively on the state welfare system, it is said that they enter the death stroll, el camino de la muerte, because care will arrive usually after the person dies, sadly when it's not needed anymore. So during COVID, the internationally celebrated Colombian hospital bed, this design here, that doubles up as a coffin, seemed to be a good affirmative design solution to the COVID-19 problem. Y digo afirmativo porque en diseño especulativo y crítico está, digamos, en oposición al diseño afirmativo que busca solo soluciones. Esto pareciera que era una muy buena solución para el COVID, pero para nosotros, y dentro del contexto de la investigación, habló volumes, ¿no? Muchísimo sobre otra cosa, ¿no? Embebida en la cultura. Y es the very rooted cultural idea of the inevitability of death in the face of illness if you are poor. Es decir, esa idea muy enraizada culturalmente que la muerte es básicamente inevitable si eres pobre. Y esta misma idea es lo que define el Sistema Nacional de Salud en Colombia. A key provocation or wicked problem was what we heard about prices and the real reason why private care was completely out of bounds for the more disadvantaged population. And it's this dramatic difference between cost and prices due to bureaucracy and corruption. Es decir, los servicios en realidad cuestan muy poco, pero son cobrados muy caros por estos organismos intermediarios de los que hablamos antes, ¿no? And this is when critical and speculative really took over. And we could imagine a parallel world in the future in which it was possible to access primary health care and diagnostic tests outside the official healthcare system and away from private care logic, that was only available for the few that could afford it. So we came up with a few speculations, but the one that made more sense to us was called Salud para la Gente, where we imagine an independent healthcare platform that could mirror the proximity, the compassion, and the holistic mindset of traditional healers, and prices that the more disadvantaged groups can really afford in order to bypass completely the collapsed public system. A sort of healing kiosks complemented with diagnostic tests and pharmacies. ¿Por qué esto era una especulación? Porque no existe ahorita. ¿Y por qué se perfilaba como algo que, a ver, básicamente la idea era inspirarnos o recoger todas estas ventajas que tenían el sistema de salud, el sistema de curación tradicional, los yerbateros y los curanderos, en los que no solamente están cercanos, sino que además no están cercanos, digamos, físicamente, sino también están cercanos emocionalmente. Son gente que te oye sobre lo que te pasa en el cuerpo, sino alrededor de ti, y que trata de empatizar, ¿no? También pasa en este sistema de salud tradicional que el yerbatero tiene todo lo que necesitas para curarte. No hay que ir a distintos sitios, sino que está a la mano inmediato todas las hierbas y las pociones y las preparaciones, ¿no? Esto definitivamente fue una inspiración para esta plataforma que creamos. Aquí aquí podemos ver qué pasó. Parasistema de salud, or health parasystem, as we called it, opened this possibility of creating a private, so-called private health or independent parasystem that can first pay fair wages to the health workers who were currently very exploited, and also to offer prices that most people could afford, right? So it was definitely private, but it worked as a public health system in that sense. So the idea became this startup called Sana, a homophone of the word that means healing in Spanish. So básicamente sanar viene de sanar, y está en este momento en la primera etapa de implementación en Bogotá, y está funded, ¿no? By private investors, por un grupo de inversión privada. La idea es que para el 2023 esta startup esté en 4 ciudades, tenga más de 60 kioscos, estos kioscos de salud, 300 kioscos, 60 walking clinics con un poco más de equipo y capacidad, 750 farmacias a nivel nacional, 12 laboratorios, una plataforma online, y digamos, la idea principal es que estas 3 unidades están conectadas en un sistema en el que si tú te sientes mal, pagas, para dar un ejemplo, un café en Colombia cuesta entre 3 y 7.000 pesos. Una consulta aquí va a costar 10 o cuesta 10.000 pesos. Sí, ahí se entiende un poco cuál es.
Voy a seguir semi-interpretando las cosas que nos va contando Malex. Estoy dejando en el chat, me imagino que se dieron cuenta, como traducciones a rato para quienes no... Ahí está, Malex. Justo te fuiste cuando estabas explicando lo del café.
Bueno, que es un ejemplo perfecto para entender digamos, la forma en la que el sistema trabaja y la forma en la que nos imaginamos que podía trabajar y cómo se aplicó hoy, ¿no? En el presente. Básicamente revelando ese momento en el que se entiende que un examen de sangre cuesta, no sé, 700 pesos al costo y es cargado en 18,000 pesos, ¿no? Sin necesidad. Entonces, eso, ¿no? Mundano se encargó no solamente de imaginarse cómo podría ser este sistema independiente o para sistema de salud, sino también de implementarlo. Y yo creo que los mensajes también han sido muy importantes, ¿no? Para que la gente entienda de qué se trata. Cuando decimos que, por ejemplo, el sistema de salud privado está lleno de mensajes que hacen referencia a un tipo específico de familia, heterosexual, con 2 hijos, una niña y un niño, todos perfectos, todos felices, y en donde la atención prioritaria es lo que están vendiendo. Y por otro lado, Sana ha tratado de comunicar que ofrece atención prioritaria para todos. Es decir, que bajo esta plataforma todo el mundo merece atención prioritaria. Y bueno, todo el sistema, la implementación de las comunicaciones, de las primeras clínicas, de las farmacias, del web app completo que ya está al aire. Es un proyecto que pasó de ser una especie de prototipo diegético de otra realidad a en realidad se puede hacer, ¿no? Ese es mi experiencia. A ver si voy a dejar de
Qué lindo
compartir.
proyecto.
Sí.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Malex.
Sí,
Eh,
algunas preguntas o
sí, bueno,
comentarios.
la idea, now I'm going to speak in English and Spanish, alternate J.Paul for you to understand also. La idea es que vayamos, o que se abra en el fondo la conversación, el debate, la discusión en torno a los temas, ¿no es cierto?, que nos han propuesto tanto J.Paul con el caso de Telefónica como Malex con el caso de Sana. Así que si tienen preguntas, dudas o comentarios que quieran hacer, está el panel de las preguntas y respuestas para que lo hagan. Yo también tengo algunas preguntas que voy a hacer como para poder ir como warming up. Voy a partir desde lo que tú expusiste, Malex, y luego le voy a hacer preguntas a J.Paul. ¿Cómo se conecta? Porque entiendo el tema del análisis cultural que se hace con lo especulativo, pero ¿dónde o cómo, qué es la semiótica? O sea, yo entiendo la semiótica visual en el fondo y la semiótica del lenguaje, pero ¿cómo entra en el proyecto el tema semiótica? Que me parece interesante porque nosotros no lo habíamos escuchado ni aplicado en el taller.
Sí, la manera en como nosotros lo hacemos es una aplicación de la semiótica que se llama semiótica comercial o en este caso semiótica para el diseño, ¿no? Y nos concentramos en ver, en observar la cultura, y cuando digo la cultura me refiero a todo, ¿sabes? Cine, televisión, telenovelas, memes, a ver, la categoría misma, ¿no? ¿Qué está pasando en el sector de salud? ¿Cómo comunica el gobierno su servicio? Pero también qué está pasando en el sistema de salud privado, cómo se comunican las compañías o las organizaciones privadas con respecto a lo que ofrecen o cuáles son las ventajas. Y la semiótica aquí entra porque la semiótica es la disciplina que estudia cómo las cosas llegan a comunicar, cómo el significado se forma, ¿no? Y cómo está compuesto. Y creo que para todo el mundo, pero para un diseñador más todavía, es importantísimo entender que todo comunica, ¿no? En nuestro caso fue de verdad muy importante entender que si bien había una discrepancia entre lo que se comunicaba y lo que se recibía, era muy importante entender a quién iba dirigido esta comunicación, es decir, la gente, cosas como eso de la atención prioritaria, eso es semiótica, ¿no? Porque no es solamente entender qué significa atención prioritaria, sino qué significa atención prioritaria para alguien que no tiene, que lo que tiene enfrente es lo que llaman el camino de la muerte, ¿no? Es una paradoja infinita. Y la semiótica se utiliza para analizar esos mensajes visuales, verbales, gestuales. En el caso de nosotros, pues, no solamente estábamos observando los mensajes, como digo, de los dos espacios principales de información, que era lo que el gobierno decía, lo que las empresas privadas decían, sino también qué cosas estaban presentes en la cultura, por ejemplo, con estas caricaturas, ¿no? ¿Qué querían decir? ¿Cómo está representada esta realidad? Y también, ¿cuáles son los mitos que lo rodean, ¿no? Hay digamos, una parte del análisis semiótico y cultural que se encarga de entender las narrativas, cuáles son los cuentos que se están echando, ¿no? Sí. Más o menos por ahí va la cosa.
Súper, muchas gracias.
Sí. Malex, y como para continuar un poco esa idea, por ejemplo, lo que ustedes analizaron con los curanderos, que luego lograron proyectar, es un poco esa misma idea, ¿verdad? Como tomar algo tal vez como un poco más de identidad que solo pasaba ahí y se proyecta a distintos países y funciona como en la misma lógica también, ¿cierto? Un poco eso.
Sí, absolutamente. Como te digo, lo que hace la semiótica del análisis cultural es que nos da una manera de mirar las cosas que nos permite hacer un análisis que después es transferible, ¿no? Parte de este análisis es también entender lo que nosotros llamamos códigos stretch o de inspiración. Y digamos que aquí es donde está la fusión entre el análisis cultural y semiótico y el diseño especulativo, ¿no? Porque definitivamente yo creo que en la presentación de J.Paul que compartiste antes, explicaba un poco cómo, por ejemplo, cómo se hace la rueda de diseño especulativo, donde tú vas preguntándote cuáles son las implicaciones de esto, cuáles son las implicaciones de esto, cuáles son las implicaciones de esto, hasta que vas conectando ideas y depurando hasta llegar a un sitio en el que pareciera que hay un espacio para imaginar realidades alternativas. Bueno, a veces ese espacio, o mejor dicho, casi siempre ese espacio se popula, se llena, sí, se llena de referencias que ya tenemos, que nos rodean, pero que están extrapoladas, ¿no? A otro contexto o a otra realidad imaginada, ¿sí? Entonces eso, mirar alrededor, al mirar alrededor nos dimos cuenta que una de las implicaciones de no tener un sistema de salud que realmente resolviera los problemas de salud era que el sistema tradicional en realidad tenía un peso bastante más fuerte del que uno se puede imaginar. Y ahí estábamos analizándolo de manera semiótica, ¿no? Es decir, cuáles eran los gestos, cuáles eran el sistema en sí, ¿no? Está un sanador, está también todas sus hierbas alrededor, está la idea de la proximidad, de la cercanía, de que están en los mercados, de que se conectan con no solamente lo que te pasa a nivel físico, sino a nivel, digamos, espiritual, emocional. Todas esas cosas estaban ya allí, pero extrapoladas pues se convierte en un elemento que puede mostrar indicios de cuál puede ser otra realidad, ¿no?
Perfecto. Me queda a mí muy claro Muy interesante el tema y bonito el tema de los curanderos. J.Paul, there's a question here I'm going to ask you to share. Which aspect of design inspires you to work with speculative design? I think the person that made this question is wondering how did you get to speculative design in your practice?
Yes. So my background is in service design. And I was working in the United States with Mayo Clinic as a service designer, doing healthcare experience and delivery. So Mayo Clinic is the #1 hospital in the US, and it employs 50,000 people in the site that I was working at. So it's a very big organization. And at the time, this was maybe 2007, and I was just hearing a little bit about Tony Dunn and Fiona Raby from the Royal College of Art. And I was really interested in these approaches to designing future products and services. And one of the things that was so inspiring or interesting to me is so many of the problems we had in healthcare were tied to the near-term needs of the business. So no one was thinking 2, 5, 10 years into the future. No one was talking about, well, what is possible? What could we do? What might this look like? Everyone was talking about, how do we solve the problem today with what we have right now? And I just felt like we were missing so many opportunities by focusing, on just the near-term needs. So those two things: frustration with the very slow moving hospital, development, and we were trying to innovate, but the business, the near-term pull of the business was very difficult to overcome. And then seeing these very interesting and different worlds coming from speculative design that I just found so exciting. Those two things kind of got me started. I then went to the Royal College of Art to study with Tony and Fiona. And so I studied with them for 2 years. And then for the last 10 years have been trying to use speculative design in industry settings. So hopefully that's a helpful answer.
It's beautiful to know that you started this because of healthcare or health system, because it's beautiful because it's a noble way to see it, and because we are working with the same theme. And also I think it's interesting because it's maybe one of the topics that around the world it's not working as maybe it should be, or we expect it to be. It's I think it's necessary. That's why we agreed with the students to work with mental health also, because it's scenarios that are not maybe not well approached. I don't know.
Yes. No, I completely agree. And an interesting or a couple interesting thoughts there. One, the mental health issues that we face today are so fascinating because so many of them come from our modern way of life. So all of our technology, all of our new ways of living, all of our social media, all of these things that were supposed to make life better, actually they create new challenges like mental health. So I think that is a very interesting thing, that actually when we try to innovate, we try to introduce new technology, we try to live in a modern way, but actually that way of living actually it hurts us. It's detrimental to other parts of our life. That for me is an interesting problem. And an important reason we use speculative design to try to anticipate, before we introduce the technology, try to anticipate what the problem will be. The other thing you mentioned, now I'm in London for 10 years in the UK. And many of the problems that the National Health Service in the UK have are identical to the health problems we had in the United States. The problems are the same, but in the United States, we think, oh, you know, we're a capitalist model. And so we actually need more social care. And in the UK, it's a socialist, you know, a sort of national health model. And they think, oh, we need to become more capitalist. We need to privatize healthcare. So it's very interesting. You're right. The problems of healthcare are universal and very, very core to our, you know, living well. But every country and every kind of market context is trying different ways to solve these issues. It's a very complex space, but also very meaningful. If you make fixes, it can be really powerful for people, and that's exciting.
I have a question regarding what you say about technology. I've seen that speculative design always work with technology, like at its core. Is it necessary, or is it a must to work with the technology, or maybe there are ways to do it more analog? I don't know. Like
yeah, absolutely. Technology is very interesting because it's very closely associated with design, you know, and traditionally where design was operating. So technology is a great place, but any social or cultural change in the world, environmental shift, anything that is new or different or will change in the future can be a place for speculative design. So, for example, new politics, like polarization. In the United States, they have this big problem with polarization, right? It used to be in politics, everyone was kind of in the middle. And now people are very right-wing, you know, we support Donald Trump. People are very, very left-wing. And so this polarization, a sort of breakdown of civility, a breakdown of society, a breakdown of democracy is a very interesting trend. And that is a perfect place to explore speculative design. What does this mean in the future? How does this change? What will our new politics have to be to address polarization and populism? So technology is very interesting, but it can be social, it can be cultural, it can be environmental. Anything, you know, any shift in the future is a worthwhile place to explore.
Great, totally agree. There's also this, so there's always this question, but I think also that everything can be a catalyst, like catalizador. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, catalyst. Yeah.
There's a question for you, Malex. Thank you for being here. I'm reading like textually what. Hi, thanks for being here. I want to ask something about Sana in Colombia. Everyone trusts in non-traditional health. What does people think about chamanes? Me refiero a la visión que se tiene sobre los curanderos, porque al menos acá la medicina no tradicional, medicina alternativa, es poco conocida y casi un privilegio conocerla.
Sí, bueno, yo creo que es que ahí, voy a contestar en español, ¿sí?
Uh-huh.
Yo creo que es que hay distintos niveles con respecto a la medicina tradicional. Digamos, el más popular, y esto se refiere a lo que vemos en la calle en Colombia, son estos yerbateros, ¿sí? En donde la práctica se resume casi toda a, también se les llama sobanderos, ¿no? Es imponer las manos, es hacer tisanas. Ellos tienen una cultura de tisanas muy, muy, muy fuerte, en donde, ¿sabes? Hacer té, básicamente, tiene mucho, mucho poder, ¿no? Pero de ahí a digamos, la conexión con la cosmogonía indígena, por ejemplo, ¿no? Con todo el sistema de creencia indígena, digamos que los puentes son directos, es decir, de ahí viene definitivamente, pero no todo el mundo está conectado con esa parte más chamánica, como la llama tu como, no sé cómo se llama la chica, o el chico.
Trinidad.
Sí, entonces, sí, está conectado con eso y la gente que busca encuentra esa conexión, pero no es lo que se consume a nivel de cultura popular, ¿sí? Y eso, en nuestro caso, fue una ventaja, porque para conectarse con esta cultura de los yerbateros y de los sobanderos, no necesariamente había que conectarse con algo que no todo el mundo podría sentir cercano, ¿sí? Ahora existe, y no solamente existe, sino que es fundamental, es la base fundamental de toda esa práctica curandera, ¿no? Contesté la pregunta.
Sí, sí, perfecto. O sea, Trini, si es que si te queda otra pregunta en base a eso, sí, dice que sí, muchas gracias.
Sí,
Em,
perdón, disculpa, volviendo a lo que to what J.Paul was saying, or your question before about does it has to be around technology? I think it's really interesting that actually the more we know about what technology can do for our health, the more we understand that we need to work in ways in which, we stop growing. For example, J.Paul has a very interesting, speech about that. But we are seeing like the emergence of indigenous practices, because also technology, yes, we can talk about, technology as in tech, like innovation but actually a technology is anything that helps us to do something better. And that could include, analog practices, or, sort of just ancient ways of understanding our surroundings and connecting with it.
Wow, that's beautiful. Everything that allows us to connect. Yeah, because we showed a lot of, or we've been showcasing different projects around the world to the students for they to understand this exercise of speculative critical design in projects, and most of them have this a lot of AI or different like technologies as in tech that were like the center of the project, but it's beautiful to see it as technology, as everything that can makes us things better. There's another question I want to ask both of you. Maybe you can see if you answer it in both or one first of the other. Is there do you have J.Paul, you mentioned it in your talk of the month of design here in Chile, a certain methodology or a process that facilitates maybe the exercise of speculating, because we in the course make certain definitions, like we establish a context and a user, they investigate. Now they are working with qualitative investigation, but is there maybe I don't know if a tip, but a kind of a way of a process that you do for the projects you work in?
Yeah, I think the process is almost identical, but the trick is you're creative, you're imagining at every step. So instead of trying to find the user in the world today and understand them, you have to imagine and create the user in the future and understand what their problems or their context is. And instead of the context today, to understand it, you have to design the context, imagine what the context is. So it's a very creative, the process is the same generally, but each step you're imagining and creating what this might be. The only, I guess, or one tip I would say, we work a lot with what we call signals at the very first instance. And a signal is anything that has happened in the world right now that suggests a future possibility. So my tip is I love reading the news and exploring, what is new and what is different, and everything suggests a future possibility. I'll give one example. I just read this today. There was a storm in a really bad storm, rainstorm, thunderstorm in a town in Egypt. This happened a few days ago, and it flooded the city, and the scorpions that are in the area actually all came out of their nests, and over 400 people were stung by the scorpions, and several people died actually. So it was just this almost biblical, rainstorm and then infestation of these scorpions. And so that happened, just a few days ago. But that's a very interesting signal of these very delicate ecological balances that suddenly, because of a severe storm, nature is kind of tipped over and we have to deal with it in an interesting way. So I would take a story like that, something that happened today, and then I would imagine in the future, what other delicate balances in nature might be disrupted because of climate change. But I'll also do that with technology. Facebook just announced their name change to Meta. So this real focus on virtual reality and the metaverse. So that's a very interesting thing. And again, it suggests, well, what happens when all of our interactions are in the metaverse? What happens in a country where many parts of the country have no connectivity? Will not be able to be inside the metaverse. What happens there? So those individual signals become points of inspiration for imagining the future. So be on the lookout.
I need to grab this example of Meta because one of our not one of our students, Aline, the other professor helping us in the course, asked me the other day if this metaverse was a speculative design example. What I told her, and here maybe is that the interesting thing about talking it with you, is that maybe for me, speculative design has always the objective it aims to accomplish like doing well for people, and always with a maybe noble como foundation. For me, the metaverse is like another way of naming something that's already happening now. I'm now turning to be more critical about what's happening, right? Yeah. I think that Mark Zuckerberg doesn't necessarily want us people in the world to be better, but maybe. So no, that's my question. Do you think that that's a speculative design exercise, or maybe it's only he changed the name, but we can speculate over that what happened?
So that's not speculative. They really believe at Facebook they are building a metaverse. That's where they're putting all of their investment. They believe that we will all live in, and we will spend a lot of time working, playing, having relationships, learning. All will happen in virtual space. And just like we're doing now, this is, two-dimensional, slow video. They believe, they are trying to build very, very high dimensionality, high fidelity interactions in the metaverse. So they really believe that, and that's what they're doing. And I've even had conversations with people inside the company now. The whole company is moving in this direction. But the term metaverse came from a 1992 science fiction novel, Snow Crash. So the idea of the metaverse was a speculative, imagination from science fiction. And so now they're building it. Now, it's not good or bad. And I agree, I'm very critical of how Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook will build that. And I'm not sure it's a utopia for all of us. I think there's probably some really scary parts of their vision of, and scary implications of what their version of the metaverse will be. And that's why we need speculative design, because we need other visions and we need to be critical. We need to show them in the future, if they build what they say they will build, how it goes wrong. And so these things are really important. So I would say, no, that their metaverse is not speculative. They're headed towards a future they really believe in. But it also is very important that we imagine what the metaverse could be. We imagine what is good, what is bad, what will go wrong, and have that conversation together as a society, rather than just letting Mark give it to us.
Yeah,
great.
I think that the extrapolation of these signals is what is really interesting to, in order to imagine future context, because it's in this sort of like hidden spaces, like, it's not about the floating, it's about what lied underneath the, sort of like the ground that is going to emerge, just connecting with what would happen if this extrapolates to our reality, and in our everyday. There is a really, I don't know, I really like the resource of what is called the future mundane, which is basically imagine how the future will translate in our, like our breakfast, our, like bedtime, our, I don't know, going to a toilet, drinking a glass of water, all these sort of like little interactions, gestures, behaviors that actually makes this new future context come to life and be able to imagine what would we need or what could possibly go wrong.
Sí, qué interesante eso. Malex, una pregunta vinculada un poco como a lo que nos contaste tú del caso de Sana. ¿Hay alguna, yo entiendo que en el proceso de diseño uno siempre va como tomando diversos caminos y diverge, converge, ¿no es cierto? Y como es parte del proceso. Pero en esta especulación, como estamos imaginando algo que aún no existe y que en el fondo estamos buscando lo deseable, ¿hay alguna manera en la que tú te das cuenta que vas bien encaminada o que es como el enfoque correcto el que estás tomando?
Es una muy buena pregunta, porque para hacer el ejercicio de especulación no hay enfoque correcto o incorrecto. O sea, es justamente el ejercicio es hacerse más preguntas, es desarrollar un marco crítico, o pensamiento crítico. Ahora, cuando nos tocó pensar qué hacíamos con eso hoy, en esta realidad, en este presente, ahí sí, por supuesto, el filtro es qué se puede hacer. ¿Qué se puede hacer hoy? ¿Sabes? Por ejemplo, el proyecto no hubiese sido posible sin un inversor que no tenía miedo. Porque, digamos, él compró perfectamente la idea de la accesibilidad y de una visión un poco más holística, no holística en torno a lo espiritual y lo físico, sino a un sistema, la idea de sistema. Y sabía de dónde venía y cuál era la especulación y cuál era el futuro que se imaginaba esa solución. Entonces, bueno, qué está bien y qué está mal es más bien entender, como digo, en este caso específico, porque había que traerla a hoy y ver qué se hacía con eso, pues los parámetros eran bastante claros, qué se puede hacer, ¿no? Con el dinero que
Claro.
hay y con el contexto en el que estamos. Y aún así, forzamos un poco la barra, por decirlo de alguna manera, y en otro contexto a lo mejor esto hubiese sido una solución que no era la correcta o que no era la viable, pero en este caso por las características del proyecto y del líder del proyecto, ¿sabes? Del equipo, fue posible. Ahora, específicamente en cuanto a especulación.
Es mejor abrir.
Sí, exacto. Sí. De hecho, ahí es donde está el ejercicio fantástico, porque la limitación no es que se puede hacer, es que se puede imaginar.
Entonces, bien, estamos ya sobre la hora de como cerrar la hora de hablar de proyectos, y ahora sería bueno que pasemos a la segunda etapa. J.Paul, we are, I'm looking at the participants. We are in time for reviewing the two projects, but we're going to do it like in close. Okay. The students didn't want it to be open. I understand it because it's in a como etapa gestacional, like in a very primary stage, yeah. But I'm looking here that we don't have too much people that's not from the course. So, las personas que están
parece
acá...
que no van a poder hablar. No van a poder hablar por este...
Yeah. No sé. They're not going to be able to speak, the students, if we continue in this modality of webinar. So, may I close this webinar and I'll send you right now a link for Zoom that's open with the students? Yeah, and shall I send it to you by email?
That sounds great. Yeah.
Great.
Perfect.
So thank you very much to both of you for this first part of speaking of your projects. It's been really amazing to understand the way that you both used to, or the approach that you have for each, for Telefónica and Sana. So now I'm going to close the webinar and see you in the link that I'll send you to the email. Thank you very much in name of the university and our course.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll catch you there.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Bye.
Muchas gracias.